Welcome back to the Game or Die podcast. I am your host, Ryan Moore, and today's episode I'm going to be talking about just a couple games that I've been playing. I actually finished a game in VR, and I played another game in VR, and then I've been playing a little bit more Valheim. So I want to talk about Valheim first, because good grief, everyone's talking about it right now, which is good. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's one of those flavor of the week things. You know, it's a bummer that a lot of people kind of jump on the bandwagon, as it were. But the game is actually really good. I've been playing a lot of it. I've been exploring quite more than I thought I would. When I first started playing the game, I went, it's another one of these. It's another, crafting exploratory game like Minecraft. And it's definitely a lot more difficult. It has the Dark Souls, type of environments, the type of combat that I really don't care for. It's very, very basic in its combat, and it is difficult, but once you kind of wrap your mind around, this is all that I have to do, it becomes 1,000 times more easier. The main issue with the way that I play is I have a really hard time balancing stamina. And that's the key with those types of games. You have to be conscious of your stamina all the time. Whatever you're doing takes stamina, whether it's running or moving around or climbing and jumping, running, crafting, trying to get materials. All of this stuff takes stamina. And the world basically really likes to spawn enemies while you're trying to get stuff done. That's why people are going, I have 300 or 400 hours in Valhalla already, or Valheim, sorry. And the game's only been out for about a month now. It's ridiculous because the game basically really just goes, you want to do something? I'm going to sidetrack everything for you. This happened to me last night, and since I haven't played since last night, it's kind of been on my mind. I was in the middle of baking cookies, and I was like, I'll sit down and play some Valheim while I wait for the dough to chill. So I'm sitting down and I'm playing, and I'm in the Black Forest, which is kind of the secondary area that you get into. It's right next to the starting area, and that's where you first really start getting into the actual combat of the game. You've got it's not Grey Wolf. I know it's not, but I can't remember the name of the enemies, but they're like these goblins basically. And these goblins try and attack you whenever you're trying to get wood. So what I would do is I would explore, and I'd find these abandoned houses or these abandoned, buildings of some sort, like kind of almost like a ruins of a castle or a fortress. So every time you find or stumble onto something like that, there's definitely usually some skeletons or some enemies of some sort kind of holding it down. So what I do, this is how I play Valheim by myself, because I haven't played it with anyone yet, unfortunately. Hopefully my nephew, I got the game for him. Hopefully he'll be able to play and we can do some multiplayer, because that sounds super, super fun. But basically, I'll find this fortress, I'll clear it out of the villains, and then I'll take it over and I'll build a very simple base. And the base building in the game is pretty fun. It's a little difficult to really grasp how the control of it is, trying to be able to move around the pieces that you want to build in a three-dimensional space and have them all fit together. They kind of snap to each other in some cases, but it takes a little bit of time. And especially with a controller, it is pretty hard. I don't play keyboard and mouse. It's just not my thing. I don't find it very enjoyable or fun, but I definitely have on my lap as I'm playing on the couch, I have the keyboard and mouse next to me so that I can use it if I need to. But I primarily play controller. So I build this little tiny fortress with a door, some walls around the outside of the building to kind of fortify it a little bit, a chest, a bed, and a fire so that I can claim the spot and then sleep there, and then maybe a roof over the bed if the roof isn't already there. So I have a very basic sanctuary to kind of hold myself down and keep myself safe until daylight comes. And again, this is very much Minecraft. That's the way that I was explained Minecraft when it first came out. And then when I first started playing it, I was like, oh, that's what you do. You literally play during the daytime of the game. And then at night, there's so many enemies that you just basically build a little fortress, sleep, and then wake up the next day and the monsters are pretty much gone and you continue about your day. That's kind of what I do for the most part. It's not always, but most of the time. So last night I was playing and I'm exploring the the Black Forest, because I've been really trying to understand this game. And unfortunately, the game doesn't really do a super great job of explaining a lot of its mechanics. It does a better job than most, like even especially Minecraft. You literally have to go outside of the game, or this is how it used to be anyways. Go outside of the game to really get the recipes and understand how Minecraft really works. So I hate that in games. I really hate having to pause. In these games, you can't pause. They're all real time all the time. So again, there's another Dark Souls influence on gaming that I really hate. This is one of the reasons why I hate Dark Souls. There is zero reason why I shouldn't be able to pause the game. We are adults at this point. Most people who play those games are adults. We have extra things. If my wife has an emergency, or if one of the animals, has an emergency or something, I need to be able to pause immediately and stop what I'm doing. Same thing last night. I'm baking these cookies and I throw them in the oven. The oven's only takes about 8 minutes to make these cookies. I'm not going to quit out of the game just to bake these cookies, but I'm also not going to just stop and leave myself open to attacks, because if I just try and run to a fortress, who knows how long that's going to be. I'm going to burn my cookies because the stupid game won't just let me pause. It's dumb. It makes no sense. There's zero reason for it. It's artificial difficulty, and I hate it. So, sorry about the rant, but that's what it is. So, basically, when I played this game, I sat down and I was like, all right, my cookie dough is chilling in the fridge. I'll get to it when I can, to be able to, in like 30 or 40 minutes. I think that was what the recipe called for, to chill for 30 or 40 minutes. So I sat down and played some Valheim. I got to this portion in the Black Forest where I had a lot of enemy spawns happening right where my little sanctuary hideout was. So I started exploring and it became dark. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go back because, it's like a minute back. It's not that far from my base, but I'm going to continue exploring. And I found this other fortress. And basically the way that I've been playing it for the last 2 hours or so is I'm marking literally everything I come across the map. If I find an abandoned, even if it's just a tiny abandoned home with no chests or anything, I'm still marking it so that I know where everything is in the map. So if I come back to it later on, I don't go, have I been here before? Is there anything in here? I can just disregard it or go in there and fortify it a little bit more, use it as a safe space if I need to. And if I'm exploring and I need that safe space, I know exactly where it is. So I'm going through the forest, it's nighttime, and there's a fortress that has a couple skeletons. I go, oh, piece of cake, easy. So I run up, I kill the skeletons. But one guy comes behind me, I didn't see, and kills me. And it was the first time I died in about 5 hours. And it was a big bummer. I went, oh man, dang it. So I respawn at my main fortress. I go back and I grab my stuff. And immediately before I even get there, it's starting to rain. It's completely dark still. And then there's about 5 massive, huge goblins coming at me, like the more powerful ones, the ones that are magic, that heal themselves, and a couple others. I'm like, crap, I need to equip my items. I need to equip my armor and stuff. So I get killed again immediately. I'm like, dang it. So I go back again, and I've died twice in 1 minute after not dying at all for 5 hours. It just kind of felt a little bit unfair. So I go back, I do the same thing, and then I die again and again and again. I died like 5 times in a row in the span of 3 minutes after, taking down trolls and other, enemies and stuff. I got to the first boss and I defeated him. I felt really good about that. It was just like, man, that sucks. And these are like, and after I died a couple of times, the enemies would go away and then come back. And some of them are very easy enemies that I should have been able to, but I didn't even have time to equip anything because the game doesn't stop ever. And it's like, that sucks. But I've been looking online to kind of find out how to play this game, because when I play these types of games and there's nothing for me to do other than, hey, here's a sandbox, it's really hard for me to even get remotely interested in that. I need some goal to progress to. That's why when I originally heard about Minecraft and I played it, I went, I'm bored after like 5 minutes. I did the thing. I did the build a base and the mob comes at night and then you sleep and then you dig down and then you find some lava and blah, blah, blah. I did all that in the first, hour or two of playing it. And then I went, all right, I've played the game. That wasn't worth $20 or whatever it was. I just felt robbed almost of my time. It wasn't that interesting to me. But once you realize, hey, here's some goals, this is what you need to do. So I found that online. I found a couple of like, here's how the progression works, because the game doesn't really help you. And at this point, I need more armor. I've got a smelter. I've got all this stuff. I haven't really done the smelting yet, because what I want to do now is I want to get better armor because I'm dying. So I got to go hunt some trolls. To hunt trolls, you need to go find them. And so I just kind of been exploring my little island that I have. I've mapped out about, I'd say 80% of the world, and right where I died and stopped playing last night is about 80% complete of the, initial island, where the starting point, mapped it out. There's the meadows, which is the beginning point, the Black Forest, which is the secondary part. That's where like the moblin, goblin people and the trolls are. And then there's a mountain range that I don't have the proper equipment, because it just says you're cold and then you start freezing to death and dying immediately. So I don't have the proper armor for that. So I got to start upgrading. Figuring out how the upgrading system worked was really hard too, because I was like, all right, I built the bench and the bench says, all right, you need a, class 2 workbench to be able to craft these items, but it doesn't tell you how to get that. You just have to suss out, oh, I need to build this, this working axe grinder or whatever it is, and the tanning rack and stuff like that. But it doesn't tell you you need to. You just got to figure it out on your own. And that's like kind of boring to me. I hate when I have to figure all this stuff out on my own, because I sit there and I'm just like, okay, well, if I need to, do I need to build this? If I build this, what happens if I build this thing that I haven't built before? Oh, to build this thing, I need to go out and spend 45 minutes looking for all this stuff. Where do you find this stuff? I don't know. You just got to come across it. And it's like, that's where those guides should be in the game itself. You should not have to go to a wiki or a Reddit to be able to find that stuff. And it freaking sucks, because I want to be able to play the game without having to pause, which you can't, but just hit the escape button and, bring up a browser or my phone and then look on my phone for 15 minutes while my character is just sitting there. Like, it's just a waste. I should be able to do that in game. But I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've built a ton of stuff. I got my boat that I haven't really figured out how to traverse. And the reason why is because I built my boat right next to where my main castle, I'm calling it my castle, is. I built this huge base with tons of storage, and I've got my smelter now and all that stuff. And that's where I basically bring back all the big important things that I've been finding across the land. So I would start my day out in my main castle, and then I'd pick a direction and just go straight as far as I could until I hit the coastline, and then travel along the coastline and fill out, the map basically in every direction that I could. As I'm doing that, I come across, goblins and trolls, and I do the combat portion of the game. And once I fill up, I backtrack to my castle, drop everything off, and do it again and again and again. And I'm actually having fun with that. I'm listening to podcasts because there is the music is super overblown. It's just kind of boring. I'm really not enjoying that portion of it. I need something more than just the same song over and over and over again. So I kind of just dropped everything and played some podcasts. But that's fun. I'm enjoying my time, and I'm about 15, 16 hours into the game at this point. I've got a really good castle going with a second story on top of it. So I'm learning how the crafting of the buildings work and the structural integrity, which I think is really interesting. An interesting type of new mechanic to these games where you have to think about that. When I'm playing Satisfactory, for example, and I'm building a base, I can build it sky high with no structural integrity. I can build miles and miles and miles of length of floors and staircases and all this stuff without having to worry, is it going to fall? Oh, I'm 700 miles above the earth, and it's just a 8-mile long length of flooring. Like, it just doesn't matter. But in this game, it does. And I think that's really fun. I enjoyed that part of it. So Valheim is a really cool game. It looks terrible, though. I really don't like the art style that they're going for. I know a lot of people don't, and a lot of people do. There's a big split or divide between people of what the game looks like. I think it looks like crap. I think the art style clashes with itself, because the creators, I just briefly looked over this, but they basically said in an update or I think it was a Reddit for the game, oh, why does the game look so bad? Oh, we chose an art style that was reminiscent of nostalgia for, low polygon, low texture models, but high polygon counts. And it's just like, dude, no, just stick with a single art style. This doesn't look good. The textures look terrible. And then it looks very fuzzy and muddy as well. It just doesn't look good. I don't like the look of the game. But again, graphics aren't everything. I am having fun with the game. It's just, I really hope that this game in a year and a half from now, expands a lot upon what they're going for, because it definitely needs it. And I've seen a lot of people say, oh, I've put 500 hours into the game and I'm done. It's like, well, geez, the game came out a month ago. Like, you spent 500 hours in this game already? That's ridiculous. I'm 15 hours in, and that's a lot for, a game in the last couple of weeks here. So, or for me even. So I think it is a good game. It definitely needs some work, and it's in early access. This game is gonna be, worked on, especially the way it's blown up. This game's gonna be worked on for a long time coming, I think. So that's Valheim. I started Star Wars Squadrons in VR, and the reason is because I need some. With VR, this is kind of the bummer point of VR. You need time for VR. VR is something that requires your full attention and time. With the Quest 2, the setup time is very, very small, and it is fantastic, but because it is wireless, you have to deal with a battery, and this is what I had to deal with a couple times with Star Wars Squadrons, and also The Climb 2, which I'll talk about in just a little bit here. But Star Wars Squadrons, when it came out, people lost their minds because it was like, oh man, a new Star Wars game and it's in VR. And it's like, yeah, I kind of been playing games like that for a long time since VR came out. There was Elite Dangerous, which I played, which is basically Star Wars without the Star Wars licensing. No Man's Sky with the VR edition, that update changed that game dramatically for me. That's when I started playing that game after the first couple of days that it came out, because when it launched, it was just a crappy game, but they've done a lot of work on it, and I really respect I think it's Hello Games. Their radio silence sucked. I don't think that was it's not a good way to do business, especially just going radio silent after hyping up this game and then just dropping it and going, oh, all right, we're not going to talk about it for months and months and months. You're just not going to hear about it from us at all. I think that sucks. But the end product now, No Man's Sky is, that where you are landing on, all these different planets, you're space traveling, you're in your jet fighter, stuff. And it's a really fun looking and playing game in VR. So Squadrons is all 100% space dogfighting. And it's really fun. I enjoy it for what it is. A lot of people when it came out, they kind of crapped on it because, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be TIE Fighter versus X-Wing and blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember those games. I played them when they came out in 98, 99, early 2000s. But I very, very barely remember them. So I don't have any personal nostalgia for that series. And coming into it and playing it in VR, it's like, this is exactly what I expected, which is it's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's good. I don't think it's amazing, but again, I've only played a couple of missions in, so I gotta wait until I play a little bit more, but it's definitely fun. It's like, man, people who love Star Wars really play this game in VR. It's exactly what they want, and I really like that. So I'm having fun with it. It is a lot of space dogfighting. I mean, that's what the game is so far. But like I said, it's fun. And then the other VR game that I played was The Climb 2. And this is a sequel to The Climb, which was a VR launch game. I remember when this game came out and I had my Oculus Rift and I played it. It was controller only. And boy, that is a bad way to play that game without, the motion grips and controllers, the motion controllers for VR. So obviously that was 2016. It's 2021 now. So it's been a long time since motion controllers came out. And The Climb 2 kind of said, all right, we're going to make sure that this is the only way to play the game. And it's exclusive, apparently, to the Oculus Quest 2. That's why I bought it. I don't buy anything on the Oculus Quest 2 because I have a PC and buy everything and then just stream it to the headset, which is the best way to do it. And that's, again, another reason why the Quest 2 is hands down the best headset for most people. You have a very small price point to get into the system, $400 I think it's $299 or $399. So $300 or $400 to get a VR headset and buy a bunch of apps and games that are installed directly to the headset and play them without a nice PC. But if you do have a nice VR PC, you can stream everything to the headset instead of being tethered to the PC. You don't have light boxes and lighthouses to set up or anything like that. You just deal with the headset and that's it. So it's exclusive to the Quest 2. And I was like, whatever. And I'm really bummed that it is because it looks bad. Like, it doesn't look amazing by any, even the first one didn't look amazing, but the first one looks, I think, better. Again, I played the first one in 2016, so forgive me if I'm actually wrong here, but the first one looked better because I was using my PC as opposed to everything else on with the Quest 2. It's using the Quest 2 hardware, which is not that amazing. It's good, but it's not amazing. So it's like, wow, especially when I've been using all the PC hardware, the DK2, the Consumer Rift, Vive Pro, and the Index. I have 6 VR headsets altogether and the Quest 2. So it's it doesn't look good. It looks like garbage. There's a lot of popping. There's a lot of muddy textures that just take forever to load. Sometimes they don't load at all, and you're just like, ugh, this looks bad. But it's a fun game. And I really like what VR has done because it's created some of these there's a new genre of game, climbing games. The Climb 2, there's Over the Top, I think it's called. And my personal favorite, Climby. Climby is this game that my wife loves watching me play because basically what you're doing is you're rock climbing, and you can't get that same feeling from a controller like the Climb 1. When you're using a controller to play that game, it just doesn't work well. So the Climb 2 is really fun. I liked it because it was more action based. They really spent the time to retool the game and say, all right, this isn't just rock climbing, it's a adventure rock climbing game. You are in a semi-real world. It's an exaggerated real world. And you got these cliffs that have set piece moments to them. You've got in the Alps a crashed plane, and you have to, climb across the propeller that's broken off or dangling over a cliff, to jump onto a ladder to climb up. You have the Grand Canyon, where you are precariously, traversing all of these wooden ramps and stuff. And at the end of each level, you climb to the very top, you finish it, and then you watch this little mini in-game cutscene kind of play out in front of you. Each one has like usually an animal that's up there with you that's kind of been following you. Like the Alps, there's these wolves. The fjords of Norway, or Iceland, you have like this mountain goat or something like that. In the Grand Canyon, you have these mountain bikers that the ramps are there for them, and you see them like do these crazy jumps and then parachute off and stuff like that. And then you have the city environment, which is something that I thought was going to be really lame, but I actually grew to love. The city environment's really unique because it reminded me of Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge was a game, it's such a bummer that the second game came out and everyone hated it, and it was kind of just dropped because the first game was amazing. It was so unique. That whole running on the rooftops, messenger thing with parkour, and really going, we don't want to make a game with guns. So we want you to have a little bit of combat, but you're never going to use the guns. I thought that was really cool. And then the second one came out, and I didn't even play it because it was just like, it was such bad word of mouth. I think I bought it for $5. I installed it and I played maybe a couple minutes. I don't even think I got past the tutorial because I was just like, I'm not in the mood for this, or this wasn't looking fun. But man, Assassin's Creed. Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge is awesome. And the city environment for the Climb 2 really reminded me of that. It's a very bright white look to it. But what's really interesting about the Climb is basically each level has these 3 difficulties and 3 settings. So each difficulty has a different setting to it as well. So let's say the city, for example. You have... we'll take that off. You have the Grand Canyon. So the easy version, the easy section is easy. It's very easy to climb. It's a lot shorter, and it's bright. It's like noon, so you can see everything. It's very bright. Then the the medium is kind of getting towards the dark time of the day. It's the sunset. It's not as easy to see everything, and it's a little bit harder. And then you have hard, which is at nighttime, and is very hard to see stuff. And each series of levels, the fjords, the Grand Canyon, the mountain, and city, all have these 3 difficulties maps to them. And each map is different. Harder in difficulty, and also in the setting, it's a little bit different because of the daytime and nighttime cycles. I thought it was awesome. The city was really unique because it did something a little bit different with that. It changed it up. So you have easy, which is in daytime, medium, which was at nighttime. And I really hated that because it was so stinking hard to see. And then the hard setting was at daytime again, but you're on this gigantic skyscraper. That reminded me of the opening level of Hitman 3, where you're in the what is basically the Burj Khalifa, but you're on this skyscraper above the clouds and you see people jetpacking across and stuff. And at the end of that, the very end, the last level of the game, when you complete it, you see this guy jetpacking and waving at you and stuff like that. And I was like, that's fun. It's, it's no spoilers or anything like that. It's kind of a throwaway thing. But I really liked it. And it was definitely worth I think it was $20. I think it's $30 normally, but Oculus gave me a $10 off coupon that was expiring that day or the day or two after, and Climb 2 just came out that day. So I was like, this is a brand new game. It's normally $30. I have a $10 off coupon, $20 for an exclusive VR game that I won't get on sale probably anytime soon for my newish VR headset that I really want to play while my wife's out of town. Sure, why not? So I bought that, I played through it, and I really enjoyed my time. It's not very hard. It's not very long either, but it is still quite enjoyable. And they really amped up the action, like I said, the set pieces and stuff, but also being able to play that game. I think there's no wrong way to play the game, but I really enjoyed it when I started trying to speed run it and play it more like an action game. Kind of in my mind as I'm playing it, I'm pretending like I'm role playing as the character because I'm doing the movements, which really, again, this is why VR is so stinking good. You really enrapture yourself with these characters because you're having to do the physical movements of stretching your arms out up in the air like you're grabbing. And you can play it two ways. You can use buttons on the controller, like the A and X buttons and stuff like that, to be able to press to jump. Or you can use your actual physical momentum of swinging your arms around and letting go of the grips to be able to swing off and jump in the air. And once I started doing that, I was like, dude, I'm almost like Spider-Man. I'm like this parkour. I'm reliving Mission Impossible 2. Like, it's a really cool system and setup. I love it so stinking much. And that's why VR is so fun, is when you get put into the actual game itself. Everything's around you. It is unlike any other medium. When I think one of the biggest issues is that people think it's a fad like 3D TVs. And they think it's the same type of technology. Oh, 3D TVs and 3D movies. Oh, there's a little bit of depth and things are kind of coming at you. It's like, no, that's not what VR is. VR is literally immersing yourself in this virtual reality where everything around you has 3 dimensions to it. It's not a X, Y, and then a little bit of Z axis, because that the way those movies and things are filmed, they're filmed on a screen, and then you have a 2-dimensional object coming forward. There's no depth and sides to that stuff. You cannot lean to the left or lean to the right and be able to see around the object. That doesn't exist in, 3D movies. When you put on a set of VR headset and you pause and you look around the actual object, you see all 3 dimensions like you're viewing it in real life. Like you picking up a rock and you're turning it around and it has all 3 dimensions. That's why VR is awesome, and why it's really hard to really describe why VR is so awesome, because people really don't understand it until you put the headset on. And I'm going to bang this drum until, my arms fall off, because I think VR is some of the most unique technology ever invented. It's honestly life-changing. in the terms of games anyways. Like, man, I cannot, that's why I've invested so much into VR over the years. It was absolutely worth it for me to be able to buy a DK2 in 2014 and play it and go, holy crap, this is amazing. Man, VR is awesome. So there's a couple other things that I want to play in VR in the next little bit here. There's a VR mod, or there's a mod for Half-Life Alyx, which is VR only, and it's about BioShock. And I really, really want to play it. So I'm going to install it and play it today. And then also Subnautica Below Zero in VR is still awesome. Below Zero is, they've released their last update before it goes 1.0 in May, I believe. So a couple months out, which is kind of a bummer, but they're pretty much done with the story. They're pretty much done with everything until 1.0 hits in the next month and a half or so. And the VR mod is working for it. I played a little bit of it, but I haven't gone back to it since the last update. So I really want to try it again because I'll play Subnautica in VR all day long, every day, because it is Subnautica is my favorite VR game for sure, 1000%. I cannot imagine that game pancake mode. And I've played, Below Zero in pancake mode or flat mode or whatever you want, normal mode. But when you throw it into VR, it is, like I said, it's unlike anything else you've ever experienced. You have to play VR. It is so stinking good. I love VR. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Game or Die podcast. It is a shorter episode for sure, but like I said, I just don't have that much to talk about. I've talked about 3 games, decent length, going on about 37 minutes here, but that's fine. I want to do more podcasts on a more frequent basis, so maybe doing a little bit shorter episodes, every week or so, or 2 weeks might help me kind of get there to a little bit more advanced or less rush, but less, man, what am I trying to say? I want to do more episodes, so hopefully that'll help. I had a lot of technical issues and computer issues and stuff over this last week where I lost a lot of data. So that's what's been taking most of my time up this week, or I probably would have been playing a lot more Valheim. I would have probably finished Star Wars Squadrons at this point, but I'll get to them. Life goes on. Everything's awesome. Tennessee, like I said, moving here is amazing. We've had several storms over the last couple of days here. We had this massive storm with a tornado watch or warning. And holy crap, the lightning and thunder shakes the house. The thunder shakes the house to the point where it scares the crap out of me. So that was really fun last night, and I was trying to play Valheim. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to stop because this is stressful. I don't know if we're going to have a tornado or not, but everything's good. Everything's awesome. Thank you very much for listening. I've been your host, Ryan Moore. Go check out my reviews on the website gameordie.net, and I'll catch you next time.